Okay, we're going to study the topic of contingency planning today. What is this contingency planning and how it's done? Before we start, we need to understand that there are lots of unexpected events that happen when we are doing business. Some are in control, and some of the events are not in our control when we are doing the business. So, how we plan those events and how we react to those situations. Do we have another plan if our plan A fails? These situations are called contingency planning for the business. Many businesses use contingency planning. It's not about trying to predict the future, uh, but it's the strategic planning basically that helps to manage the crisis in the future if the crises are coming in the way of our plans that we have done already. Contingency plans helps us to make clear some of the future uncertainties I was saying that contingency planning helps to make a clear something clear about the future uncertainties and identify risk and opportunities. And prepare for them eventually. Contingency planning helps manager how they can manage the crisis in the future. How they can manage the crisis in future. And also understand the cause and effect of change in business and how to manage it. I still remember when my teacher, I was in Australia at that time when I studied contingency planning, my teacher taught me this topic. We had some good teachers indeed. My teacher taught me this topic. He took whole of our class to a beach, and we left at, for example, 6 a.m. and we reached the beach at 12 noon, and there was a lot of rush at that beach at that time. There were a lot of people over there. While coming back, there were lots of traffic, and we got late too. When we reached back, and next day in our class, he taught us the topic of contingency planning, and he said that we left at 6, but there was an effect of that when we reached at the beach, there was lots of rush, so we were unable to enjoy the moment that we wanted to enjoy in our own company and all that. We had some option. For example, we might had left at 6 a.m. Irrespective of 6 a.m., we might have left at 4 a.m. and we would have reached 2 hours early, and we would have enjoyed some loneliness, but we will have to sacrifice some of our sleep for that. But some things are out of our control. For example, if we face some traffic on the way, or the people who are coming to celebrate their own stuff over there, we cannot control that. So whatever we do in life, we receive something against that, we pay something against that. Some things are in our control and some things are not in our control, but still we have some options to to make the things better. For example, if we want to avoid the rush, we could have left 2 hours earlier. If we want to avoid the traffic after when we are coming back, we would have left the beach 1 hour earlier so that we can avoid some traffic. So we have some options for that. Preparing managers to use that options in a better way is called contingency planning. Now, different approaches to contingency plans we have, but there are a number of steps to be opted for the contingency plan. We'll talk about those steps. First of all, identify trends and issues. What we do, we check the internal and external environment in an effort to identifying the emerging threats. We have already talked about an analysis that is called pestle analysis. Political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental forces are analyzed, and we want to judge that how those forces can impact our businesses. Second, identify the possible crisis. We have identified in the pestle analysis that economic situation is going to change in the future. How that change of economic situation might become a threat for the business, how the change in the level of unemployment can become a crisis for the business, how the change in the government policy can become a crisis for the business. So businesses and the managers tries to imagine that crisis, tries to identify that crisis. The background of that crisis is always based on the internal and external situations that I told you in the pestle analysis. There might be some political change. For example, a government is being changed, and a new government is coming with the new laws that are not favoring our business. That might also be a crisis for business. What is the third step? Plan a response. Businesses are not like that if they're facing crisis, they'll sit and wait for that crisis. They plan how to react to that. We identify the exact impact that crisis will have in our business, and we develop a plan how to handle that crisis. For example, there is a level of inflation coming in the purchase of raw material, and we will have to increase the prices of our product, and we know that our product is elastic in demand. If we increase the price, the consumer will stop buying the product and he will buy from some other producer. What we do now, we can plan that we can buy raw material from another country, for example from China, where the raw material is cheap, so that we may not have to increase on prices, and this will not impact our sales. There is another step. Identify the most likely crisis. It's not the situation that every crisis will impact business in the same way, and every crisis will be affecting our business in the same way. So business can identify the wide range of crises and the ways how they can impact the businesses. There are probabilities that something will impact less and something will impact more. We can identify that which events are more likely to happen in future, and which events are affecting the business most in the future. And then fifth one is the capitalize on crisis. That is a very important step. So this is applying the planned response if the crisis happen. Not all the crises have negative outcomes. Sometimes some crises may be beneficial for the businesses too, and may be lethal for the other businesses, for example competitors. And sometimes the crisis may be damaging for the business. Sometimes recession may be impacting your business positively because you are making basic needs, and sometimes it may impact negatively. Now you will have to capitalize it. The plans that you have already made for the business, you need to capitalize those plans, and you need to implement those plans so that your business might respond to them and you might get some benefit out of that. Next thing that we are going to study are the possible crises, and then we'll study what are the behaviors of the business, how the business can handle those crises. The list of the possible crises is very tall. We have number of possible crises, but we'll talk about the few ones only. First of all, one possible crisis is the natural disaster. These are the horrible ones actually. And especially what makes them horrible is that they are beyond the domains of human control. They happen suddenly and we cannot plan even for them. They are, for example, floods, hurricanes, or tsunamis, earthquakes, and forest fires, and things like that. These natural disasters can affect business in multiple ways. For example, if business is dependent on some raw material that is coming from the area where that natural disaster has happened, the delivery, the supply of that raw material will be stopped and business will have to stop the production. Secondly, if the communities of businesses are living in that areas and suddenly the income has fallen of those people because of that flood or because of that earthquake, they have lost their businesses or jobs. It might also impact the business because business won't be able to sell goods and services to those people. They might also affect the business in a way that the buildings of business may fall, the plant and machinery of business may be crashed if the that natural disaster happening in exactly that area where the plants of business are located. Another problem is the IT system failure. IT system failure. You know, the positive hacking is becoming very popular, and it's a very growing job in whole of the large economies and the businesses like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and all that. They hire positive hackers who try to hack their websites again and again, so that if some other party, external party, tries to hack them, and they can identify that what are the loopholes in their own IT system, and they can control them. If positive hackers that have been hired by the company themselves can enable themselves to hack the website of the company, then they can ask their own developers that these are the loopholes and they should be controlled. So this is one, the hacking of the website is one of the IT failures that we can face. But the businesses, when in today's environment, are becoming very dependent on the information technology and online selling and the websites. The hacking of a business for even one or the failure of the business website for a few minutes can create losses of the millions of dollars of the business. But this is the thing that although completely it's not beyond the domains of human control, but still business can try to control that, and they make effort to control that IT stuff. And I have given you example that they hire positive hackers, but this is the one example hacking that is called cyber attack in the business environment. But there might be some other IT system failures too. For example, sometimes there might be some electricity problems, power generation problems. The websites might be down because of some other reasons in the countries where the internet is from the old and ancient techniques that are becoming outdated, but still that internet is being operated in that countries. The internet can be stopped. Like in Pakistan, it's very common problem that net is becoming slow and all that. So these are few problems of the IT that can be controlled, but still sometimes they cannot be controlled. So the third possible crisis for the business is a loss of key staff. Key staff, the main staff on which the business is dependent. For example, for a restaurant business, some chef who is making some yummy recipes for that restaurant business is the key staff. For an IT company, some IT software developer who is developing some of the major apps of the that company that is being sold to some other buyers is the key staff. If the businesses lose that key staff, that might become a problem for the business. And there is a war going on in the multinational companies. Facebook is trying to get the staff of Snapchat, for example. Google is trying to get the staff of Opera, for example. The Amazon is trying to get on the staff of AliExpress and all that. And in this way, the other companies are uh, running after the staff, the most talented and the intelligent ones. The Sony is running behind the Dell staff, for example. We might lose some of important staff of our business, and if we lose the important staff of our business can go years far behind than the original performance, because finding out that competent staff again and trying to hire them again may take time for us. The next thing that we are going to study is planning for risk mitigation. When we speak the term mitigation, it means that reduction in how something can get bad to us. For example, it's the way of reducing the disaster that can happen to us. How can we reduce the risk for us? There are a number of ways. For example, what we can do, set up location in such a way that might not face any probable disasters like earthquake or fire. So we should locate in our building in such a way that it's safe, at a safe place. This is to avoid the natural disasters, for example. Or we should ensure that the building that we have developed assures all the standards of safety and protection that have been defined by the engineers. What we can do, we can ensure that the data stores in computers is safe, so that in case of any loss, our data might not be lost. We can save it at more than one place, or we can keep the backups of that data. We can also use some backup power, so that if there is electricity failure, our business might not be, and our data and our computers might not be affected because of that. We should ensure that our valuables are insured. We should take insurance for all the valuable materials, machinery, and all that. We should also ensure that we have some emergency funding to be used in situations of emergency. And we should produce business continuity plan. We'll talk about this continuity separately now. We need to learn that after the life of employees and the managers and all people working in the business, the next important thing that we need to ensure is the continuity of the business, because with the continuity of business, everything is assured. With the continuity, jobs of the people; with the continuity, profits of the business; with the continuity, the market share of the business is ensured. If business discontinues because of some reason, we will lose everything. So what we can do for the continuity? Carry out business impact analysis. When we speak the term carry out business impact analysis, it means that we need to identify and we need to identify the functions and processes that are essential for the running of the business. We should gather all the information, and we should recover all the strategies. We should all develop the strategies for the recovery purpose. Uh, we should also identify the financial sequences of incidents like losses, customer defection, increased cost, and we should find out the solutions for that. The impact analysis basically focus on that what situation will result in what, so that we can plan out for the future. For example, if we are losing customers, what impact it would have on the business. Then we can develop the recovery strategies, that is called formulation of recovery strategies. Businesses need to understand that loss of customers, loss of profit, increase in cost is the part of business activities. Some things we can control and a lot of things we cannot control. If this is happening, loss of customer, increase in cost, loss of revenue, we are facing some penalties or something like that, then what we can do in response, how we can use the recovery strategies. We can do some agreements with another business in case of losses, for example. To share the resources so that we can decrease cost. We can use the resources in new usage. If they are not being efficient in something and we are wasting our resources, we can use them in another way. If we are unable to produce the required quality and we are losing the customers, or we are unable to meet the customer demand in both ways, we can contract out work to the third party, and we can ask them to make the required quality. We can change our production methods, designs. We can change our priorities according to customer demands. According to customer demands. If we are facing some problems because of stock problems, we can keep high stock level. We can shift the production from one plant to another too. This might also help us to formulate the recovery strategy. The third thing that we can do for the business continuity is the plan development. Developing a detailed plan to ensure that the recovery strategies are carried out in an organized way. That recovery strategies are carried out in a planned way. And there are no loopholes in the recovery strategies. We can also document the recovery strategies and procedures so that they can help us in the future too. Then we can do testing and training. Once the recovery plan has gained the approvals from the senior authorities, then we can design the testing exercises so that staff can be trained for that, whatever the strategies we are going to implement. So these are few things that we can do about the continuity of the business. Okay, the next thing that we are going to study is the succession plan, that is also part of the risk of the mitigation for the businesses. Succession plan is important for the business because if workers are working extraordinarily right now, and the managers are also working extraordinarily, the managers might retire in some time, and we should have next managers. Who will be the next managers? This is an important question. Who will be running the company? Who will be the CEO? Who will be the director? uh, this is called a succession plan for the business, that who will be running a business in next few years. How we can do that succession plan? First of all, what we can do, we can identify the characteristics of a successor that should have. We can see what characteristics the current managers and the directors are having, current CEO is having, and we can see what characteristics or attributes the next managers or the next CEO might have. We can also identify the weaknesses that current CEO is having or the current managers are having, so that we can find out the next person without that weaknesses. We can decide then how that successor will be found. There are ways of internal and external behaviors. People can internally promote someone, people can hire internally or hire externally. If we find someone out of the business competent enough that he can be a good successor, but we should make a plan for that, and then have a rigorous selection process. We should examine the strengths and the weaknesses of all the candidates that we have an option, so that we can decide the best possible candidate for us. Then finally we can make the decision that he will be the next CEO of the business, and these will be the next directors of the business. And after making that decisions, we can communicate that decisions to the all workers and all the relevant stakeholders of the business, so that appointment procedure can go smoothly. And then we can come to the last thing, that is the implementation of training and preparation plan. The person appointed will need to be trained and prepared for the final transition into the post when needed. This may involve shadowing, learning from somebody else by watching him. For example, we can make him a deputy director or assistant director, so he can work with the existing director and find out that what ways of procedures he is opting, so that he can also do that. Or we can involve him in other training processes, so that he can learn that what are the skills needed to be the next director or CEO of the company. This is what we call the succession planning. So this is the end of contingency plan chapter 2.